Welcome back to the Devil and the G-String. We mixed in with the large crowd of people trying to escape the building. The employees scrambled for the stairs, not giving a care about anyone else. A good number of people fell and were trampled. We searched for an exit like a pack of refugees. When we reached the outside at last, we took in a breath of fresh air. It was only then that we understood. You saw me. We had thought that as long as we made it out of the building, we'd be safe.
はい。予想の斜め上を行かれました。
This wasn't just a takeover of the Sinnoh Corporation building. The sound of screaming meshed with the rattle of some machine gun fire. As it turned out, nowhere was safe. People were being mowed down mercilessly in waves. Flesh and blood scattered about everywhere. The evil sounds were incessant. The screaming, the gunfire, and crashing noises continued unabated. I had no idea that air could smell this scorched. And there was so much fire that you couldn't even tell what was burning anymore. The distant sky was misted in smoke.
ひとまずどこかに身を隠しましょう。
As reality broke down around me, I did as Usami suggested and headed for a nearby alley. Just as we were about to get to the alley, a patrol car showed up. It stopped on the shoulder of the road, siren blaring. The police, the thought of the power of the state getting involved with, left me with a transient feeling of relief.
逃げましょう。
She pulled at my arm. A dozen boys holding iron pipes suddenly came out of hiding. They bashed on the windshield and hood, and when the officer stepped out of the car, they changed their target to his head. You've got to be kidding me! These children didn't hesitate for a second with the violence they were inflicting.
ハザイさん、早く!
More mayhem awaited us in the alley we were into. Normally, it would just be a narrow little space where the homeless settled down for a bit. But now, several men were having their way with women, or I guess the one laying to the side and having a fit was someone that had just finished with her. Suddenly, I heard the sound of glass breaking from above, and a person fell from the sky. He was a man that looked to be Yakuza, but he was covered in blood and foaming at the mouth. Oh, a kid with dyed red hair finished him off with a piece of lumber. Oh no, someone pointed at us. Kill him! They yelled as they closed in on us, laughing. I took Usami's hand and ran. The reality of what was going on around me gradually started to sink in. It was scaring me. It was like those anti-Japanese demonstrations in other parts of Asia that you see on TV. Central Boulevard had been transformed into a frenzy of violence. After breaking the window of a restaurant, a group of boys had crowded around the register and scattered the money about. A sports car drove through the crowd, taking free rein over the usually congested streets. On the sidewalk, a middle-aged businessman was being ganged up on and murdered. Graffiti of the sort you'd find in a public bathroom was sprawled across a police box. That only drove home the point that we can't expect anything from the police.
クーデターって言うんですかね。
I don't think so. This is too vulgar to be an uprising or revolt, and too indiscriminate to be terrorism. This is hell. Usami nodded. Mao, the devil, had brought hell to earth. It's just after 4 o'clock. I received a report that the last alley in Central Boulevard had been blocked off.
結構。これで山王物産を中心とする半径約3キロの区域は我々の国となった。
We can call it Neverland or the People's Anarchy of Tomenbetsu City. It doesn't matter. What's important is that I succeeded in forging the hell I saw on Earth. Death and destruction enveloped everything in sight. I spent many a year plotting in order to bring about this lawlessness. Central Boulevard has nigh on 40 different entrances and exits. And at the moment, each one of them is being controlled by the children I brought up so dearly. According to my preliminary calculations, the roads themselves will only take about 10 minutes. The plan was to take a few freight trucks we had stolen prior and drive them into the buildings, effectively creating a barricade to stop up the alleys. In addition to that, we also piled up sandbags to fill up any empty space between the buildings and the trucks, and to top it all off, we decided to put up a barbed wire fence around it. The fence which, with that last report, has just now been finished. The idea was to coordinate all of this with the takeover of the Senno building and the abduction of Imagawa, a member of the National Diet.
よくやってくれた。みんなで力を合わせて国を守ろう。
I responded gently to the child. I made sure he understood that this plan was not just a thing of fairy tales. As long as you had the proper know-how and you were sufficiently warped, anyone could pull it off. The cell phone rang. It was from a number associated with the police. I guess it's time to make the police face this brilliant music as well.
こんにちは。あなたは本件の責任者かな？
There was no need for a voice changer. Regardless of which machine or algorithm you use, police technology has evolved enough to identify your voice print.
私は県警捜査一課特殊班の時だ。本件の責任者と考えてもらって構わない。
His voice held a sense of dignity in a firm will. This prefecture's special division is on par with the Tokyo Police's special investigations team or Osaka's martial arts attack team in terms of capability. They're professionals when it comes to hostage crises, kidnappings, corporate threats, blackmail, and other such cases. When dealing with vicious criminals such as myself, they mobilize with heavy equipment, and then if negotiations fail, they charge in.
はじめまして、時田刑事。いや、警視正かな？
警察の階級に詳しいようだな。君はまさか警察内部の人間じゃないだろうね。
He's a real negotiator, alright. Already going after the juicy details.
私のことは浅井と呼んでほしい。ひょっとしたら公安あたりが実態を掴んでいるかもしれないから聞いてみるといい。
わざわざすまないね。手間が省けるよ。お礼と言ってはなんだが、こちらがいかにして君たちを包囲しているか忠告してもいいだろうか。
ぜひお願いする。
現在セントラルオフィスに至る全ての道路を完全通行止めにしてある。歩道も同様だ。ロープを張ってカメラを抱えたマスコミもシャットアウトしている。
手際がいいな。事件発生からまだ3時間しか経っていない。警視庁からも応援の機動隊が来ているのかな？
細かい説明は不要のようだな。各封鎖地点にはすでに走行車両やサットの移動用バスも待機しているぞ。
お見事。では防備の脆そうなドラッグストア近くの封鎖地点に走行車両を突っ込ませて突入経路を確保したらどうかな？
ご指摘ありがとう。だが今川議員の現在地安全が確認できない現状では突入は見合わせる方針だ。
賢明だな。今こちらでどんな騒ぎが起きているかは知っているな。
Central Boulevard is equipped with various cameras that serve as crime deterrents.
さっきカメラから送られてきた映像を見た若手がトイレに駆け込んでいったよ。いやはやまるでこの世の出来事とは思えないな。
暴挙に及んでいるのがほぼ未成年だという点に注目していただきたい。
承知しているよ。少年たちの行動は無秩序で野蛮そのものだが、計画の立案者は実に周到だ。
もしこの問題先送りで評判の国の総理が未来を担う少年少女を皆殺しにしろとサット隊に命令できたら、これからは私もきちんと選挙に行くとする。
But even if it weren't minors they were dealing with, the police wouldn't be able to just charge in on a moment's notice. Getting over trucks that tall would be difficult even for a mercenary. You'd make an easy target while you were attempting to scale it. Granted, if they came charging in mindless of losses, they would be met with some success. But with the police hotshots in Tokyo finding themselves to give the go-ahead to such an unfavorable brute force operation, I still believe my biggest threat to be the military. The Japanese military's hand-to-hand combat capabilities were spoken of even amongst my mercenary comrades as being among some of the best in the world. Naturally, I don't think I'd have much luck going up against a legitimate army. But using Japanese infantry against urban terrorism is a concept that has only been put to suggestion in recent years. If the fight involves civilians, they wouldn't be able to make full use of their overwhelming potential. There's also the possibility of them dropping in paratroopers, but in a situation like this where you wouldn't be able to tell terrorists from civilians, that wouldn't be all that effective.
虐殺命令が降りてこないことを祈っているよ。そうならないように私が来ている。
話し合いで解決するのが一番だな、時田警視正。我々は味方だろ。
He returned some dry laughter.
いや、浅井には驚かされるばかりだよ。君は交渉人のマニュアルなどを熟知しているのだろう。
どうかな。少なくとも無理に会話を引き延ばす必要はない。私は粗暴犯ではないつもりだ。
そのようだな。
ついでにあなたが FBI にも留学したエリートだということも知っている。長らく感触についていたことも、ユキという幼女がいることも。
参ったな。今私にわかるのは、君が日本人で年齢が20代後半から30代前半、背が高くて痩せ型ということだけだ。
They say a truly capable negotiator can discern a person's age, origin, intellect, and state of mind just by hearing their voice. Some can even discern physical features such as your height and weight. They say listening to the pitch your vocal cords produce gives them insight into their size.
それでは通常の交渉の段階をすっ飛ばして、あえて聞いてみてもいいかな。
Furthermore, they can mask themselves with a versatile, malleable personality capable of adapting to the situation. However, he must have figured that continuing with that charade would be pointless against me.
要求は何だ?
His words contained no trace of his previous tender attitude. Senior Superintendent Tokyo removed his mask and laid his hostility bare. I could feel his drive to catch unjust felons, his pride as an officer, emanating from the other end of the phone. I responded by politely stating my demands.
首相に要求する。今から私が言うものを即刻釈放せよ。
And so I went on to name extremist political prisoners, one by one. Mixed among them I listed my father, Samijima Toshikatsu. After all, he was a man who had been, long in the past, suspected of being involved with the extremists. Tiles had been upturned here and there along the path we walked. Splinters of glass were scattered about. Streetlights were bent over, crooked, and on the verge of falling over at any moment. The shopping district was less than a shadow of its former self. How are things on your end, Usami? We hid behind a wrecked car as we searched for some form of escape.
ここもダメです。
The main exit out of Central Boulevard was blocked by a huge bus. Sandbags were piled further on top of it, blocking any view of the outside world. Occasionally, we heard the sirens of ambulances and police cars from beyond the blockade. Men in uniform and young boys fired off their pistols and machine guns almost like a warning to those outside. The pandemonium all around us had shown no signs of abating. Hip-hop fashion boys were chasing around the poor unfortunate souls that had been left behind. There were women among them too. Each one carried either a pipe or a gun. Were you talking to me? My eardrums had already been saturated with noise from the hell around us. The sound of smashing concrete. The sounds of screams and gunfire. Piercing shrieks. Dashing and running. Fighting. Cries of death. Hey, you. That's why we didn't notice the voices stealing up on our backs. Usami yanked my arm. We ran our hardest. We passed under the crooked street light and dove under a gasoline pump covered in soot. Jeers and whistles assaulted us from various directions. Usami's exhaustion was made clear by her face. I probably looked just as pathetic. As I panted, I felt something sour creeping up my throat. After jumping into a cafe with all of its windows busted, we were finally able to turn around. At this level, he hoped that a disabled man was closing in on us with a nasty grin.
ここはまずいです。
She's right. Running into a building with only one exit isn't going to do us any good. Feeling a bit dizzy from lack of oxygen, I kicked my legs into action once again, crossing over the floor covered in shattered glass. Over there! My feet responded in kind, with noisy footsteps. After getting back on the road, I still could not afford to rest my legs. I crossed the street, jumping over an open manhole in the process. I passed an elderly man's corpse and a broken vending machine along the way. But in the end, this was all a hopeless escape. No matter where or how far we ran, mobs of people would be there to greet us at every turn.
どこかに身を隠さなくては。
Just the act of running makes us stand out. We turned a corner. There was a department store signboard about 200 yards ahead. Over there! That was the only place we could run. Major department stores have multiple exits. And there should be plenty of hiding places inside. The bathrooms, the escalators, behind racks of clothing. It's not like these little goblins are chasing solely after us. If they lose sight of us, they'll probably just give up. The situation inside of the department store wasn't much different from the outside. Display cases had been shattered and gems were scattered about the floor. We stepped over torn bags and the pieces of dismembered mannequins as we searched for a place to hide. So dark. We're on the second floor. We're trying to hide ourselves in the fitting room. After settling down and catching our breaths for a moment, we take stock of the situation. You're not injured, are you?
鍛えてますので。
She smiled weakly. So, what do we do now?
しばらく逃げ回ってボートが沈静化するのを待ちましょう。
Will it, you think?
彼らは特に目的を持って破壊を続けているわけではなさそうです。壊すものや人がなくなれば飽きるでしょう。
In other words, we should lay low until all the other ducks are done for.
そこなんですがね。
Usami tried to breathe as silently as possible as she engaged in deep thought. I heard footsteps on the other side of the curtain. I immediately held my breath.
誰かいんのか？
Her voice and tone gave off the spitting image of an archetypal hoodlum. She must have heard us talking. The footsteps came closer. What should we do? I asked Usami with my eyes. If they find us here, we won't have anywhere to run.
おい！
Maybe we should just jump out. If we catch her by surprise, it might throw off her aim. I look over at Usami once more. For some reason, even in this dire situation, the sensations of our night together resurfaced in my mind. I know what I have to do. No matter what it takes, I'm going to protect this woman. I ready myself to pounce the moment the curtain opens.
いや、やめて！
My arm had been grabbed. My hand was gripping something soft. Usami was shrinking back against the wall, her clothes suddenly disheveled. My brain took over before I could feel confusion or panic. I've known Usami for a long time now, so I'm used to her drift. She may be a doofus, but she's pretty clever. They're in a really bad situation. I said take it off, you dumb. I slipped my hand over. Yep. Cry all you want, it ain't gonna change anything. Alright, I threw her down. I heard a voice from behind my head.
Oi!
I turned around and a blonde with a pistol was staring down at us. Usami squirmed desperately.
なんだ、お楽しみ中か。
I answered in the most counterculture tone I could muster. Turn straight, so get out of here. I saw them first. The girl lowered her gun.
勝手にやってな。
She turned around and headed for the escalator. Phew, looks like I got through that one.
いや、ありがとうございます。さすが浅井さん。
I didn't hurt your arm, did I?
あ、いえ。
She chewed her lip in embarrassment.
しかし浅井さん、完全に悪党でしたね。某世紀末アニメに出てくるモヒカン張りでしたよ。痺れました。
You really like that show, huh? I'm surprised she can still make jokes in this situation.
今ので確信しました。彼らには特に誰が味方で誰が敵かという区別がないようです。
Indeed. They're all dressed pretty casually, and they aren't wearing any accessories or anything to identify each other.
単純に逃げ惑う人や武器を所持していない人、あからさまに青少年ではない大人たちが彼らにとっての獲物というわけです。
It's impressive that you can make such rational observations at a time like this. I follow your logic, but I can't help but wonder why.
おそらく魔王が警察の突入を躊躇させるためです。誰が一般人で誰がボートなのかわからない状況では警察官の動きも鈍るでしょう。
Yeah, I guess. But none of that really matters now. All we need to do is make it out of this hellhole alive. Well, at least things are looking up. We look like kids and all, so we should be able to get through this just by laying low.
ええ。
She didn't look fully convinced.
けれど連中の中に我々を知っている人間がいれば話は別です。浅井さんはよくセントラル街をうろついていたでしょう。自分もバイト先のドラッグストアの看板娘として有名ですから。
I still think we should try to hide here until nightfall.
わかりました。
Usami nodded expressionlessly. The hero retained her calm in the face of this unprecedented crisis. Oh, this is really messed up.
繰り返す。不当に逮捕された同志たちを解放せよ。
I gave him my demands.
今から8時間の猶予を与える。8時間以内に誠意ある回答を期待する。さもなければ我々はこの町が焦土と化すまで破壊をやめない。今川を筆頭に多くの人質が命を落とすだろう。
At first glance, it may seem a tad silly to bring up hostages when hundreds of people have already died in the chaos along Central Boulevard, but that is not the case. The life of a member of the Diet and the life of a citizen are vastly unequal in value. I know of at least 3 huge enterprises, a railroad company, and a road management company that will lose out on certain perks in the event of Yumagawa's death. Now then, what sort of counterattack can I expect out of Tokyo Yuki's father?
ひとまず了解した。
The negotiator had no choice but to accept the demands.
突っ込んだ質問もいいだろうか。
何か。
君は過激派の一味なのかな。
He's sharp.
それ以外の何だと？
ああ、そうか。すまなかった。
He must have figured that I was a bit young to be a Japanese radical. Spend as much time as you want profiling me, Senior Superintendent. Kyosuke and Usami are already privy to malice true identity. The Yakuza Kyosuke has gotten involved with probably know as well. However, the police are yet to realize that Mao is the mastermind behind this disturbance. At any rate, it should be difficult to get an accurate profile on Samijima Kyosuke, a dead man. I've never been in trouble with the police, and I've left behind almost no photographs. Even when I was playing those games with Usami, I took utmost care to leave no evidence. 8 more hours. There will be a few extensions, naturally, but my goal is in sight regardless. Senior Superintendent Tokiga added to the conversation.
しかし要求の達成は限りなく難しいと君も分かっているのではないか？
ピザを差し入れろというのとはわけが違うからな。
そう、囚人の釈放は私はもちろん警察で対応できる要求ではない。
だから首相を出せと言ったのだ。内閣総理大臣以下関係閣僚を招集して即刻会議にかける。
報告しておこう。ただし8時間以内で意思表明できるかどうか確約はできない。
できるはずだ。現在地方遊説中の閣僚はいない。時間の延長は一切認めない。
Negotiators will often make use of their reciprocity theory of psychology in order to request something from the criminal in exchange for giving their request.
8時間以内1分1秒の遅延も許されない。
Among the most common of those requests is an extension on time.
了解した。
I'm sure that despite his acknowledgement, he'll be sure to use every means at his disposal to request an extension on the deadline when the time limit approaches.
時田警視正、私はあなたと交渉するつもりはない。警察レベルで判断できる要求ではないことは重々承知している。したがってあなたは私の意思を伝える連絡役となってもらえればいい。いわばただの友人だ。
光栄だな。では友人として私の個人的な見解を述べてもいいだろうか。
どうぞ。
君の望みが叶えられる可能性はある。
What is he playing at?
政府及び警察は人命を重んじて過去にいくつもの事件で超法規的に犯罪者の逃亡を幇助してきた。1970年の事件などは君にとって恒例だろう。安心したまえとは言えないが勝算はある。だからこそ今すぐに。
I'll just repeat that part.
安心したまえとは言えないが勝算はある。だからこそ今すぐにでも街で行われている破壊活動をやめてはどうかな。一般人に死傷者が出ている以上、釈放を検討する会議において反対意見が出ることも予想される。
I shook my head. I got interrupted.
犯罪者の釈放について政府が方針を転換していることを私は知っている。先の同時多発テロでは首相がテロリズムには屈しないと声明している。もはや時代が違うのは承知している。
I brush off all emotions.
だからこそ私は前例のない規模でのテロを敢行しているのではないか。
No standard hostage case would press the leaders of this nation to stand up and take responsibility, or even extra legal measures for that matter. Criticism, both domestic and from abroad, has molded the government's new hard-headed stance.
飛行機をハイジャックする程度では貴様らの目が覚めんと思ったからこそこの地獄絵を描いたのだ。
Give me back my father. Why the death penalty? He's just a prisoner. There are murderers who take wives with booze and steering wheels. There are murderers who commit premeditated infanticide. Not one of them is sentenced to death. Bottomless hate and malice welled up inside me.
今回の惨劇は全世界に報道されることだろう。さらに我々はインターネット上に殺戮の光景をくまなく流布している。ぜひとも知るがいい。平凡な休日を過ごそうと恋人や家族とショッピングに出かけた矢先に理不尽な死刑がいくらでも転がっている。人事だと思うなかれ。一方的な殺戮が行われているのは紛れもなく平和で治安の優れたこの国だ。我々はいつでもどこの町でも同じような事件を起こす。
An act of unprecedented terrorism. I spent 10 years in preparation for this. A chill and shudder in the spine of the Japanese government. Nay, the world.
時田警視正、約束しよう。要求が満たされれば我々は市内における破壊活動を即刻中止し、以後二度と惨劇を繰り返さない。
My mouth almost slipped for a moment. I almost mentioned that it would be a small price to pay for the release of my father.
どうしても政府が対面を保ちたいというのなら非公式な形での海外への亡命とし、釈放はしないが身柄は解放するというわけだ。そういった言葉遊びはお手の物だろう。
That proposal was the only compromise I can make.
確認したいことがある。
He spoke in a serious tone.
人質は無事だ。後ほどこの町の商店街のホームページにリアルタイムで動画をアップする。他に質問は？
He did not give an answer.
では8時間後、なるべく早い段階での回答を期待する。
What is this?
遅くなればなるほど何の罪もない一般市民が殺されていくのだからな。
We left the department store after dusk. We scrounged up for some props and I ended up with a piece of wood. Usami managed to get her hands on a bent iron pipe. We should blend in better with the violent mob now.
逆に警察に見つかったら撃ち殺されますね。
We walk casually along the main road. No one takes notice of us, just as we suspected. Destruction, along with other bitter fruits of violence, littered our paths. Doors torn from their hinges, shards of glass from shattered windows, and corpses decorated Central Boulevard. The corpses in particular told tales of the deathly horrors of the past few hours. Beatings, shootings, you name it. Crows flocked to the ground and meandered around the disfigured heads of human beings.
無謀すぎます。
As Usami had predicted, the riot had started to die off a little. They must have finally gotten bored, as our way was blanketed by an almost eerie silence. A single gunshot or a single scream would ring out every so often. We need to find a way out of here.
あるといいんですがね。
There are countless narrow alleys around here. There should be at least one opening somewhere. Usami shook her head.
目に見えてわかるような抜けがあれば今頃警察が突入しているでしょうね。
I guess so.
例えば密集し合った建物と建物のわずかな隙間はどうでしょう。
That could work. We could also check large stores like that department store. Ones with tons of exits. One of them might lead out of Central Boulevard.
心当たりは？
Let's see. Big buildings with exits facing out of Central Boulevard. The coffee shop. That big karaoke bar. As I was trying to render an image of the downtown area in my head.
Oi!
Startled, I turned around. I was met by 5 boys who were clearly bad news.
やっぱり浅井と宇佐美じゃねえか。
Oh. Among them, wearing a nasty grin, was our classmate Hashimoto. Sup, Hashimoto? How's it going? That thing you got in your hand there would happen to be a toy, would it? The object in his hand shone silver under the streetlight. I've seen that model handgun somewhere before. Oh, that's right. I remember it from the time Gonzo took me hunting in some remote mountain area. I already missed the days when he would ask me to join him for firearms training. Come to think of it, his wake is being held today. Looks like I won't be able to make it.
デートでもしてたのか？お前らも運がなかったな。
Tell me about it. Got ourselves into some deep poop. The group of five seemed to have recognized us as prey. They slowly closed in on us.
なあ、浅井。ものは相談だがよ。
I received an unexpected proposal.
俺たちの仲間にならないか？
Interesting. Why?
ポキタから聞いたよ。お前、ヤクザの息子なんだろ？おまけにすごいボンボンじゃねえか。そういうやつは仲間に引き入れろって言われててな。
I take that to mean Hashimoto is unaware of my connection to metal. I could feel Usami's stare. I'd say this is an offer I can't refuse. And what about Usami?
そいつはわかんねえな。
He directed attention to the group of boys with a twisted smirk. Each of them held a lecherous taint in his eyes.
どうすんだ？浅井。
He lifted his right hand and pointed the gun to my head. I heard the crackling sound of glass at Usami's feet. I knew what I had to do. In your dreams, you son of a bee. I suddenly chucked my wooden prop at Hashimoto. The gun went off. However, I knew something Hashimoto apparently didn't. A particular weapon isn't meant to be held in one hand. That particular weapon is meant to be held in one hand. Even with two, it's hard to aim. I doubt he'd be able to hit me even from this distance unless he aimed at my stomach. The wager paid off as Hashimoto's arm was wrenched by the brief blow. He screamed out pathetically, Usami! Usami! I broke into a run. Usami quickly caught on and started to chase after me. We ran through the very core of Central Boulevard. We're in a much more dangerous situation than we were this afternoon. The number of available prey has been thinned out since then. Innumerable boys dressed similar to Hashimoto worked out of darkness like rats. Kids sitting on the side of the road dressed in hip-hop fashion heard the fuss and rose to their feet. They all fired their guns off at random as they chased after us, shouting with joy. What do we do? The more we run, the more pursuers join the chase. We saw a group of buildings in Central Office ahead. Since there isn't really much entertainment in the business district, maybe there won't be as many kids there. Are you okay? She tripped over a corpse or something. I took her hand and helped her to her feet. You're right on our tail now. We were approached by uncountable footsteps and shouts. It was only a matter of time before those bloodlust crackheads could see the lights of our eyes. Sami was wincing in pain. She might have hit her knee in the fall. I too was reminded of my own exhausted state. Who knows what they'll do to us once they capture us? They're filthy hyenas. Sure, they'll probably just kill me, but if they get their hands on Usami... Usami, you go off on your own! I turned back toward the angry mob without waiting for an answer. I could hear her behind me begging me to stop. Paying no heed, I charged forward. Seems like Usami ran off without further complaint. Needless to say, I don't plan on just handing myself over. Over here, suckers! I waved to Orc to come after me. I ran into a narrow alley. I won't have to worry about being surrounded in here. If I can take just one of them down and have his gun, I might be able to get through. Something falls down from above me. It smashes into my face and I black out for an instant. Apparently, the thing that fell down was a person. And I'm not lucky enough for it to be a corpse. It's a boy in a hoodie. He throws me to the ground as we struggle. He's carrying a knife and panting heavily. He grabs hold of my arm. Gah! He's absurdly strong. He pins me down and mounts my stomach, and I find myself completely unable to resist. His eyes, muddy from drugs, were right in my face. The dull gleam of his knife invades my sight. Darn it! Haru! The first thing that flashed through my mind was that disgusting girl. There was a thud, and with it, the boy's eyes rolled back in his head. The hand gripping the knife went lifeless. Behind the boy was someone holding a club. They were shivering, as if they regretted what they had just done. Oh no, that was someone I knew well. Hey man, you sure you should be appearing in a serious scene like this? As Aoichi helped me to my feet and immediately started to run. Oh yeah, he was in Central Boulevard too, wasn't he? Urged on by Iichi, I followed him through a door deep in the alley. Inside was the bar we had once visited during our pursuit of Saijo. Oh no, only one window had been cracked, and the food and liquor hadn't been rummaged through at all. This is just insane.
俺初めて人殴っちゃったよ。ついにやっちまったよ。これで俺も真の鬼畜もんかね。
You really saved my butt.
マジ感謝しろ。命の恩人だぞ。
Yeah. Anyway, you're still alive?
いや、俺も無我夢中でよ。何が起こってるのかわからねえし、とりあえずウサギの第6巻ってやつ、ずっとここに隠れてたわけよ。
What a lucky little... yes. Oh, hey, wait a minute. I looked around the shop. Where's Miss Noriko? Ichi trembled.
ノリコはあいつらに捕まって。
Oh no.
つーのは嘘で。
No. Huh? Not the time.
デートの約束すっぽかしやがったから、そもそも町に来てない。
That would be good news in this situation. I heaved a sigh of relief. Oh, but now's not the time to be relieved. I took out my cell phone and called your song in. But the signal must have been bad or something, as I couldn't connect.
あ、何がどうなってんだ？
I'm not sure, but it doesn't look like there's any way out.
マジかよ。やっぱりな、そこら中で悲鳴が湧いてるしよ。アメリカと戦争でも始まったかと思ったぜ。
This is no war, it's a massacre. And to make things even more messed up, it's kids that are doing the butchering. Butchering hospitals, police boxes, government buildings. They haven't spared anything. Everything's on
まさ
fire.
かと思うがよ。これも例の魔王とかいうやつの仕業なのか？
Most likely. Come to think of it, there really is no hard evidence to support the Mao theory, but both Usami and I are pretty much convinced it is.
お前こそ宇佐美はどうした？
I don't know.
マジかよ。付き合ってんだろおめえら。二人して学園サボって温泉行ってるって噂だったぜ。
We aren't dating. What the heck? Hot springs? Tokita probably just shot off her big mouth and pulled that out of her butt. Anyway, I'm going to look for Usami. I headed for the exit.
どこ行くの？
Well, I've got no place particular in mind.
宇佐美と携帯がつながるまで待った方がいいんじゃねえのか？
No. She might be in a situation so precarious that she is unable to use her phone.
待てよ、正気か？
Suddenly, when Eiichi went to grab for my shoulder, they were on the other side of the door.
あざい、そこにいるんだろ。
We've been found. Oh, jeez. They keep pounding on the door. Are there any other exits? There's one shattered window, but I don't see a back door. I pointed out the window to Eiichi.
ダメだ。
He spoke in a whisper.
囲まれてる。
After a gunshot, the door was kicked open. They started pouring into the bar like a pack of zombies. Hashimoto closed in on us, his face blackened with dirt and soot.
逃げられねえよ。
The look on that face was completely alien to the student on the basketball team that I had been familiar with.
てめえはじっくりなぶり殺してやるよ。
Suddenly, I felt a pressure in my back. My sight flashed for a moment. My head burned like it was on fire. My vision was soon engulfed in darkness. I heard Eiichi's shrill voice, but I couldn't even lift a finger in response. I hope Kyosuke is alright. Haru was concerned over the boy who had sacrificed himself to save her. She was able to escape the clutches of that angry mob thanks to him. He may put up a cold facade, but he really is a hero when backed into a corner. She wanted to contact him immediately to make sure he was safe, but for whatever reason, her calls wouldn't connect. No matter how many times she dialed his number, she never got through. In the office district, just a short walk away from Central Boulevard, there didn't seem to be many thugs hanging around. But in their place, she spotted a man in military garb carrying an automatic weapon. Perhaps he was one of those mercenaries Yuki had spoken with. Seeing as Haru had only spotted one so far, there were probably relatively few of them in this operation. However, the man she did come across did not play games. He killed indiscriminately and without pause, never bothering to give chase. After gunning someone down, he simply continued his patrol unaffected, keeping a sharp lookout. The gears in Haru's head were ready to turn at a moment's notice. Ever since that bombing at a Moscow theater, ever since the day she lost her mother, Haru's anger and hatred toward Mao never left her for a minute. The fact that Mao has posted a professional here implies that this region is more important than Central Boulevard. Next, she simply needs to understand why. As Kyosuke mentioned, Mao's objective is the release of Samajima Toshikatsu. Presumably, the main hostage is the politician Imagawa. She also knows that Suno Corporation employees are being held captive. The terrorists likely intend to kill them to serve as a warning to the police. Will the police really accept their demands? Police jurisdiction does not include the premature release of incarcerated convicts. However, Mao must already know this. He's not the sort of man to cause this perverse uproar without even the remotest chance of success. Then again, perhaps he's using terrorism on such an unprecedented scale in order to sway the government's decision. Naturally, the police will stand by their tenets. They will not negotiate with terrorists. So then, what could be stopping the police from charging in when there have been multiple civilian casualties already? Contributing factor number 1. The majority of the rioting mob is composed of minors. Contributing factor number 2. The police have likely not secured a satisfactory insertion point. Contributing factor number 3. Imagawa's location has not been confirmed. The first contributing factor is a perfect example of Mao's pathological caution. Though Japan does occasionally see crimes committed by minors, it's still a small fraction of the juvenile delinquency of the West. This situation, however, is severe enough to warrant calling in an assault team. To top it off, the children involved have barricaded themselves in a contained area. Needless to say, the police higher-ups who are calling the shots must be scratching their heads on this one. The second contributing factor gives birth to a number of doubts. Let us assume that each of the land routes into Central Boulevard has been barricaded. Even so, is an entirely flawless barricade even truly realizable? There must be at least one weak point in the defenses. If one wanted to cut a swath through downtown, there are a number of available methods. Off the top of Harder's head, an armored vehicle could crash through a building, or explosives could blast through a pile of sandbags. Thus, the cause of the hesitation would ultimately have to be Mr. Imagawa. Haru herself was not very familiar with him, but he appeared to be quite the political big shot. The police can't pin his location down exactly, and even should they secure an insertion and extraction point, he would be killed before the special assault team could reach him, and therein lies the reason for why Mao chose to create such a wide buffer of devastation around him. Even if they did manage to break through the barricade and search aimlessly for Imagawa, the police would be face to face with the working mobs. Naturally, their trigger fingers would be less itchy when faced with a horde of children, especially when each one would be impossible to readily identify a civilian or bogey. Just then, Haru thought she heard Kyosuke's voice. "Come on, Usami, what are you thinking?" "He's got a point," Usami thought. Really, what was she thinking? She should be devising a plan to reunite with Kyosuke as soon as possible, and maybe even escape this house. Let's just go home and listen to some classical music. Honestly, she didn't want to listen to classical anymore. Kyosuke would no doubt ask her to play the violin again. She never imagined that he would be a fan of hers. She couldn't play the violin anymore. Not after that. This is all Mao's fault. The imaginary devil on her violin's G-string had robbed her of everything dear to her. "I'll kill you." Haru looked up at the Sono Corporation's headquarters. She could see a black box moving up and down through a column of windows. It was the main elevator, and it was in operation. Seeing as they had closed the first shutters, she had assumed that the higher floors were permanently blocked off. Apparently, that assumption was incorrect. But why? Of course, the terrorists intend to relocate the hostages. The police, no doubt, had their sights set on the location where the men guarding Imagawa sent out their last communications. That location was the Sono building. Alright, I'll find out where they're going. Once they can confirm Imagawa's whereabouts, the police should decide to charge him. It's quite unfortunate, though, that Haru won't be able to kill them out with her own hands.
これは驚いたな。
A voice shot out from behind her. She hadn't even noticed him.
一体いつの間にと思っているのなら、もう少し相手を知った方がいい。
Mao looked down on her with his usual overconfidence. At his side was the Caucasian she had seen the other day, pointing a gun at her.
拠点に近づくネズミを発見し、音もなく背後から始末する。私もともかく仲間は現役のプロフェッショナルなのだから。
魔王。
髪の長い少女というからもしやと思って来てみたのだが、まさか宇佐美だったとはな。
He spoke happily to the man at his side. Apparently, this was his way of introducing Haru.
この町でよく生きていたな。嬉しいぞ。
テロに遭うのは2回目だからな。
そういえばそうか。
He spoke like he had forgotten. Unforgivable.
それで勇者はここで何をしていたのかな。ただ逃げ回っていたわけではなさそうだな。
もちろんお前を殺しに来たんだ。
当ててみせよ。今川の所在を探りに来た。違うかな。
トップシークレットみたいだな。
いやはや見上げた根性だな。
He shrugged his shoulders with a touch of humor. He then indicated the entrance to the Sono building behind her.
来てもらおうか。
何？
Why not just kill her now? The man standing next to him seemed to be thinking the same thing. He sent Mao a look of protest.
すまんあら、いつもの悪い癖でな。殺しの前はどうも遊びたくない。
She couldn't stand that arrogant composure. When he killed her mother, he left Haru alive as part of some sick game. Haru bore the insult and followed after Mao. She felt a chilly sensation against the back of her neck. Snow was trickling down from the black sooted sky. Okay. This is so insane, intense. So many emotions, so many feelings. I'm just terrified. Just scared out of my mind. What is this? This is just driving me crazy. That's actually insane. What in the world? Well, I do want to see what happens, so next time. Bye.